Thank you for being here. This is our 74th annual meeting here at Hershey Lodge, and it's pretty exciting times for our members as we think about the future of agriculture. And so, as David said, I am Chris Huffman. I'm the president of the Farm Bureau, and if you can't tell what I do, I am a pig farmer, and we do raise chickens on our family farm in McAllisterville, Pennsylvania. You know, as I thought about having this press conference, I thought, there's probably a lot of people wonder what we do here. And so just a brief statement of what we're doing here today is we're working on policy. So just to bring it into perspective, last year we had about 170 policies that came from our county farm bureaus across Pennsylvania. Out of those 170 policies, we had 86 of them make it into our policy book. So that's 86 ideas or 86 problems that we need to create solutions for our members, for farmers to be successful. And that's just for Pennsylvania. We also had 25 policies that went to the American Farm Bureau's annual meeting that got into the American Farm Bureau book that is actually national issues. And so for a small state like ours, we have 27,000 members. You think about some of our bigger states that have hundreds of thousands of members, and a lot of times they bring one or two policies. We're overachievers here in Pennsylvania because we're trying to solve a lot of issues, and that's the way our members are. They're dedicated to making sure that agriculture is successful. We were also able to create a national committee for the American Farm Bureau for our Issues Advisory Committee on Wildlife. As we'll talk about some of our issues, wildlife happened to be the number one issue last year as we set our priorities. Wildlife was the number one issue that we as Pennsylvania Farm Bureau was focused on for Pennsylvania, just because of the huge amount of damage that we see across the Pennsylvania and really the economics that it affects our farmers. And so it's really, really important that issue gets resolved as quick as possible. Talk a little bit about that in a minute. At the national level, we've been talking about the Farm Bill. Seems like it's been 5 years. It really has only been about 2 years with Congressman G.T. Thompson had his first hearing here at the Farm Show in 2023. And so, we were a part of that and was able to put a lot of information into the Farm Bill that actually affects our farmers, from the mushrooms to the lanternfly to research for Penn State, just the safety nets that our farmers need, whether it's crop insurance or something else that is really important to their farm. And the other part of it is that, we're still trying to work on Prop 12, right? Trying to make sure that states can't restrict growing practices on farmers, no matter where you live. And so it's still something that we're working on. You think about this 5-year farm bill, and we're hoping that, I just heard today that Senator Sabinow just released her version from the Senate, 1,400 pages, I believe. So it's going to take a little bit to read through all those, I'd imagine, to make sure that we get the understanding of what she has in her version. We know what's in the House's version, and so we've got to come together now to be able to pass a farm bill. But we know that in the past 5 years, we lost over 140,000 farms across this country. And it's really important that we help our farmers at a national level and here in Pennsylvania as we think about how we get the food and fiber. Nutrition is such an important part of what Pennsylvania needs for people who are in need of food. And so this farm bill helps set that stage to make sure that we don't have food insecurities coming here to our own state, and the farm bill is a good way of setting that up. We need to get this done because there is some real tough safety nets that our farmers need as we go into the next crop year, such as crop insurance, et cetera. The other thing that we're working on is our wildlife bill. With Senate 67 here out of Pennsylvania, we thought we had it done. We thought we were really close. It was the last couple days of session. We thought we had a commitment to get it done, and it didn't quite get over the threshold. But we really need to make sure that we get this bill across. It's not the solution to the problem entirely, but it's about starting somewhere and building on it. I think the Farm Bureau has really brought a lot of people together. We think about the Game Commission. We used to not have very many conversations with them, and we're now in constant conversation. The hunting groups, right? There's always was a division between the hunting groups, whether it was on Sunday hunting or access or whatever, right? And so we are working day in and day out to build those relationships with the hunters, because the solution is having hunters and farmers being able to come together using the programs that the Game Commission has in place to actually make a difference, right? And so that's kind of where we are as we think about wildlife and how to try to get that taken care of for our farmer members to give them some alleviation from the damage that's happening across Pennsylvania on their farms. We all talked about the ACAP and that Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program for water quality has been really an awesome opportunity for our farmers when we think about being able to put BMPs on the ground, right? And when you think about our General Assembly being committed to water quality across Pennsylvania, we started with over $150 million that went across the state of Pennsylvania into many counties, really helped to be able to help our farmers with some of the BMPs that they want to put on to help with water quality. And then to see, our state assembly add another $35 million into that this year. Every county is going to get the minimum of $300,000 to be able to have opportunities to put BMPs on the ground and to help farmers with technology to make them stronger and better at protecting the water. It's funny because at times people will talk about farmers and they act like we don't want clean water. Well, my animals really need clean water to grow, right? We have to have that, and so it's really important. Currently we have over 609 open ACAP contracts totaling $83 million. And there's over 328 projects worth $5.7 million that already been completed. So, it's over $93 million has been committed at this point in time to really make a difference in water quality. The state budget, again, we want to commend Governor Shapiro and his team and the General Assembly as we think about how agriculture came through as part of a nice chunk of money out of the $47.6 billion budget that was put forth. And when you think about that, $10 million to an innovation fund, right? To be able to be innovative, for farmers to think outside the box of how do we take the products we have? How do we become innovative? How do we use technology that makes the difference, right? That is so important as we think about the future, because technology is what's driving us forward. I think about the $31 million for avian flu, right? We've heard this story across this country where avian flu is now affecting the dairy sector. Even one case in pigs, right, in Oregon. This is really critical, being able to make sure that we're able to, if you get the avian flu, right, especially for chickens, it's deadly. It kills everything, right? And so that $31 million is to try to make you whole above and beyond what USDA puts in place. Clean Streams Fund, another $50 million in there to enhance through the ACAP program. Just an amazing budget. We think about the lab, the new state lab in the western part of Pennsylvania. They've had to drive hours to take their samples in to get them tested. Most people were going to West Virginia or Ohio to be able to to get their problems diagnosed. And this way, we're going to be able to have those problems diagnosed, hopefully within an hour or so from where the farms are, which is really a benefit to farmers. I feel very, very, I guess I'm just, I don't know what that is, because I can either go to Penn State, get my samples tested within 45 minutes, or drive down here to the Harrisburg laboratory for 45 minutes. So I'm spoiled, right? But our Western farmers need this, right? This is really for them to be able to grow and to be able to innovate and to be part of a larger growing agriculture is so important. I talked a little bit about high path, and it is a focus on us for Pennsylvania. The poultry industry has taken over the dairy industry in Pennsylvania. So it is more important than ever to make sure that we protect our poultry industry through the high path aviation. And so now that we have the dairy and the transfer back and forth between those two commodities, we have to be more vigilant, and we're working with the secretary and the state veterinarians as we try to make sure we put them in the right place to get to a place where we can make it as safe as possible. Biosecurity, by far, is the most important thing we can stress as we think about our industries. It's so important. The next thing would be the overorder premium. We've been having many discussions about overorder premium, and in Pennsylvania we're unique, having a charge on every gallon of milk that's sold, or every quart of milk that's sold for drinking, for Class 1. And knowing that some of that dollars are being leaving the state just because of the way our system is set up, being produced here, processed here, and sold here, to be able to get that premium back to the farmer. So Senator Vogel and Schwenk have put together a bipartisan bill. It did come out of the Agricultural Committee. There has not been a vote on it, but there has been a hearing, and so we're excited about being able to help formulate that legislation, to be able to collect the money from every amount of milk that's sold that has that premium on it, to be able to get back to the farmers in a way that we as an industry can work together to make sure that happens. So I'm excited for 2025, because we know that bill's going to be released hopefully right after the session starts, so we can get to work on it to be able to make a difference. The other thing that's really kind of looking forward at the federal government level would be tax reform, right? We know some of the tax reform measures that were put in place 5 years ago are going to roll off at the end of 2025. And so we need to be in that conversation, because farmers do the pass-through, right? And we need to be able to have that way of being able to do our business and then file our taxes to be able to get the benefits of that pass-through regulations for tax rates. The other thing is the 199, right? So it's how we do our business income deductions, and when you start to exceed over $300,000, right, it changes your tax liability if we do get this permanently fixed through the federal government. So we've got a lot to do with the Farm Bill, with ag labor, which is another national issue, the tax bills, and we're not, as we move forward, we just got to continue to keep our finger on the pulse, because we really don't know what it is that we're going to have to be addressing, because things change in agriculture, and sometimes you have to be very nimble and work. Commodity prices are not good right now across this country. We're seeing a lot of issues on weather. We need a disaster relief program, and I know that G.T. Thompson was here yesterday and talked about that, and that's one of his big focuses as he left today to go back down to D.C. is to try to put together some type of relief for farmers from all the droughts and all the things. But after all those things, right, agriculture still has a big positive bloom at the end, right? Because what we're doing in agriculture is amazing, and the types of technology and opportunities that we have. Pennsylvania sits in a unique place, has unique weather. Depending where you live, gives you different opportunities. But the market-based folks that live around here, right, gives us the opportunity to really have that farm to table aspect of being able to make sure that our members have the opportunity for markets. And I'm excited about the future, because I think the future has a lot in store for Pennsylvania farmers. And as we continue through our delegates' sessions today, and as they look at new problems, we'll be creating new solutions to those problems and asking our legislative body to help us through that and to really make a difference. So it's just a positive thing for me as we think about where we are and where we're going. And I look forward to the future as the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau helps our members be best at what they do, and that's produce food and feed a hungry society. So with that, I will entertain any questions that you may have, and I do appreciate you being here and kind of focused on agriculture and our organization and what we do for our members.
So SB 67 maintains the hunting dog exemption. Where's Farm Bureau standing on that? Are there ways to, make that some stronger property rights there?
Yeah, so, I mean, right now, the retrieval of your hunting dog is actually law, right? It's actually in the law. So when they copied over the law and added our revisions to it, it was just part of what the law was, right? And so we didn't have policy. We don't have policy on that retrieving of your hunting dog. It was just part of the law. As an organization, we always think that property rights are the most important thing. It's your property, your rights. No one has the right to trespass on your land because it is your land, right? We do have a policy that our delegates will be debating on whether or not that should be removed. I don't know where that's going to end up because we haven't got there yet. So stay tuned. We can let you know that probably by the end of tomorrow. But it's been a focus point, which is really sad when we're actually looking for a whole lot more of a broader scope, right? I mean, it's already law, but think about like the enhanced trespassing laws that we put in place. Think about the farmer to hunter connection and those types of things. Having a farmer's voice on the game commission, right? Being able to have someone there that can talk about what is really happening on the farm and trying to make policies and trying to get new innovative solutions, right? To help curb some of the and it's just not all deer, but to curb some of that damage, because it's hundreds of millions of dollars. It's destroying farm family lives, and so that's why it is so important to us as we think about the future and being able to get this thing done.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, is deer really the big issue? I mean, are there any issues? Are there any issues with wild boar or anything like that that's really coming up, or is deer really the big issue in terms of wildlife?
Well, we always talk about deer, right? But Clearfield County, they had a farm tour, right? Legislative farm tour, and they talked about elk, right? So, elk can be one of those things that can cause damage. Talk about bear. Bear is a problem. Groundhog's a bear. If you ever been in a farm field, and I know you're connected close to farms, right? You ever seen a crop circle from soybeans? Like wherever their hole is, they make a nice big circle of bare ground, right? So that's damage, right? That's wildlife damage that we need to be able to control some way, somehow. And that's where we're working to be able to get the basis, right? We're going to start by getting this conversation. We've made huge headways in being able to have this discussion, right, with the Game Commission, with the hunting groups, right? And Sunday hunting has always been that big barrier. But, if we're able to get things in place, we're willing to step aside and just kind of let the game commission manage the game whenever they want to have their game, being shot or whatever. We're not going to object to the Sunday hunting side of it. We'll just kind of stand aside and let them make that decision. We already have 3 Sundays as it is, right? So, whether it's another Sunday or 2, it's really not for us as an organization. Our thought is all about the wildlife, right? And how do we get our farmers to be able to have the opportunity to try to help push back on some of that millions of dollars of damage that are happening.
So, jumping over to the Farm Bill, any optimism about that getting passed this year versus next year?
So, again, I just learned today that I had breakfast with Congressman G.T. Thompson before he left today to go back. I just found out at lunchtime that Senator Stabenow just released her 1,400 pages, right, of her version of the Farm Bill. When I talked to him this morning, he's like, we have nothing. So we were surprised, right? We were surprised. He was surprised, right, as well. But the whole point of it is so now all of a sudden there's movement. There's a desire to get this thing done, right? And so to me, I think there's a legacy here that they've worked really hard at trying to build this thing and trying to get this done this year. It is a commitment from Congressman G.T. Thompson to Pennsylvania farmers across this country that we're going to get this thing done and we're going to get it done this year. I have all kinds of optimisms that we can do it, right? I think that if people come together, take away from their own personal, but think about the country as a whole, right? We can get this done. And I'm an optimistic person, so I'm now that she released some of the language, that is something we didn't think was going to happen. At least I didn't think it was going to happen because we've been asking for a long time.
So last week, USDA finished, or at least put out its finalized recommendation for the federal milk marketing order reform that's been debated over the last 2 years. So now it's going to go out to producers very soon here. So my question is, does Farm Bureau have a stance on, this is Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, you can compare it to American Farm Bureau if you want. Does Pennsylvania Farm Bureau have a stance on whether or not there should be, whether they support block voting within a cooperative or individual voting by dairy farmers? Does Farm Bureau have a stance on that?
So I asked about that same situation, right? Because I thought maybe you would ask that question or someone might ask that question. And so one of the things that we did as the farm bureaus, right? Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, American Farm Bureau, right? We tried to connect our farmers with their issues, right? And as we went through the hearing process to put it all out. And so at this point, like, it is now up to the farmers to vote. It is up to the farmers to make the decision. And it's interesting because as I think about what's good for Pennsylvania may not be good for, Alabama, or may not be good for South Carolina. And so it's kind of one of those things where we've got it to right here. So we've got a reformed milk marketing order. And so how do the farmers want it from here, right? So it's up to them to vote to make that decision on how we move forward. So we're not really we're giving them as much information as we can on the financial side of it and what it means to them, but we're not going to dictate the policies that the farmers decide to vote for on that.
Okay, but how about in the way farmers actually get the vote? So has Pennsylvania Farm Bureau developed any sort of policy in relation to whether or not they support cooperatives block voting for their members, or whether or not,
I don't know of any policy. I don't know of any policy that we have that talks about block voting or individual voting. So, yeah, I'm searching my database and it's not coming up. So, I don't think we have any policy on that.
Fair enough.
Ag labor is the other thing you touched on briefly. It's been really difficult to get any movement there.
Right.
Coming into a new administration, more Republican power in Congress, do you see anything changing there?
So we had that conversation last night with Congressman G.T. Thompson. As you know, he put a bipartisan group subcommittee together to just look at ag labor, right? Again, he doesn't have, through his committee, he has no authority, right, to do ag labor, right? But one of the things that he committed to us last night when he spoke to our members here is that as soon as he can get the farm bill done, he's going to be taking those recommendations of that 16-member group from his committee, right? They came out with I forget how many initiatives, right? And they're going to pull those up. They were bipartisan, voted by both sides because he had 8 and 8, Democrats and Republicans, and he's going to pull those recommendations up, and they're going to start writing legislation to try to take care of those issues that they were able to agree upon, and hopefully be able to get that passed. So, is it going to be a big blanket? But no, he's going to be looking at it more as in, okay, so here's an issue, like knowing that Congress has a tough time actually, like passing a big package, right? But he's going to try to work at it at pieces that they've been able to identify that he had his subcommittee actually go through and do over 6 months, and that subcommittee has subsetted and gone away. But to me, that's something, right? It's the ability to actually have an opportunity to maybe pick at some pieces and make a difference.
I guess following up on that on my side is, I mean, I even heard this morning on, I hate saying that I heard it on social media because I always have to take it back. Is that actually true? But this is from, very, I guess you could say, legitimate sources that the president-elect is continuing his threat to go through with there and, have all these deportation forces take out all these people who are undocumented and deport them. I guess my question is, what sort of, or has Farm Bureau gleaned the sort of economic impact of that could have here in Pennsylvania if the administration were to go through with something like that on agriculture?
Well, it would be hard for me to know, and I don't think our Farm Bureau has any idea of who's documented and who's not, right? I mean, I know a lot of folks who are using labor from outside our country, right? And they produce the documents, they produce the criteria for them to be here, right? And we hire them. And so, those types of things are kind of how we work through our system today. If there's a lot of undocumented workers in Pennsylvania that are working in ag, I don't know who they are or where they would be and what kind of economic issue that would create for our organization or for our farmers. But, I think that we have to stay focused on the ability to how do we figure out how to get more people to engage and be involved. Like one of the things that I think is interesting is, we have WB Saul, right, in Philadelphia. It's the largest kind of urban ag school, right? And we as a board went to visit that school, and those children who are in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, right? They want careers in agriculture. They're interested in careers in agriculture, and so how do we look for that opportunity in other places, right? How do we bring people maybe from a different economic situation, right, out to our farms and get them? And it's been interesting. I've had multiple conversations with these children and their advisors, and it's something that as we look into 2025, I'd like to figure out ways to be able to get those children to our farms, to give them a short, whether it's a couple day window of what it would be to be in agriculture, to maybe somehow secure more of our labor force from within.
Oh, you're pretty good. Okay. In terms of KPAC, you had said something related to ACAP earlier. The numbers: $83 million, 609 contracts. Yep. There's 328 contracts in the works. worth about 5.7 million contracts. A couple questions, and if you don't know the specifics, that's fine. It's a all-encompassing program, but I can almost assume that Lancaster County, South Central Pennsylvania, a lot of that money and a lot of those projects are going there. But where are these projects actually being approved? What sort of projects are actually being approved on the ground? What are you seeing out there?
Well, we're seeing multiple things such as setbacks, waterways. We're seeing stacking sheds for manure, concrete pits. We're also seeing digesters. There's digesters like, so there's a multitude of BMPs and opportunities here to be able to utilize this money as we think about, where we're heading in the future to help with the water quality for Pennsylvania. So those are a bunch of those types of things that are happening across Pennsylvania using this ACAP money.
I did think of one more thing.
Okay.
Did GT give any indication about the Ag Secretary search?
He is he has no idea. I know that he is his name has been added to the list. I asked him if it was on the short list or the long list, and he said, "I don't know." He said, "I think it's a long shot, but if it happens, I'll take it." So we're excited, whether he be the secretary or the chair of the Ag Committee, because either way, that's the voice for Pennsylvania, right? In one way or another, to be able to really have our needs, to be able to communicate to someone who actually knows our geographic location and who we are. And so to me, I feel honored to be able to pick up the phone and actually call him, and he answers and knows me by name and trusts me, right? It's the relationship that really makes the difference in being able to communicate our issues and talk about solutions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's a great question. I was just going to say, you've been president, I believe, for 2 years.
Yes.
And Thompson has been the chair of that committee for 2 years. And of course, I guess anything in terms of success for Northeast agriculture in this area, the ultimate success would be what's actually produced in that farm bill if we actually get one.
Right.
But up until now, not passing the farm bill yet, are you seeing sort of the fruits of his being down there yet? So are you seeing things that maybe he has proposed or maybe have gone, have either been proposed or have been, passed that you think really have benefited Pennsylvania agriculture to date?
Well, it's unfortunate that we have a divided legislative body, right, from the Senate and the House. But you think about his bill, the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, right? That passed by over 300 to 99 or something like that, right? So him working in a bipartisan way was to be able to get the opportunity to have whole milk back in schools, right? And so his work and advocacy is showing that people trust him, people are encouraged by what he's doing. And so I believe that the farm bill that he's produced, right, sure, not everything in there is going to be happy for one side or the other, right? But I think that people are starting to realize that he is in to win it, right, for the American people and the American farmer. And I think that's what really excites me about him, because he has proven to the fact that he's all in when it comes to support, not only for Pennsylvania, but the United States of America. So pretty exciting. Well, I appreciate you all being here, coming, and I look forward to the rest of our meeting. And thank you for taking the time and making agricultural special. So thank you.
Thank you.